I'm Rhinohorn7, and I've been a Superman fan all my life. A couple months ago, I finally finished Jujutsu Kaisen, and I immediately thought it would be really interesting to see how far Superman could realistically get in that universe, at least power scaling wise. Um, you're probably thinking, oh, he immediately wins, he beats everyone easily, but I think there's a lot of interesting conversations to be had regarding his powers, how he uses them, who he can even use them against, especially when it comes to like different curse techniques. However, I want to establish a couple key rules before we get into this. First off, I will be basing Superman scaling off his mainline comics only, meaning anything from either the Superman or Action Comics titles. That means no All-Star, no Superman 1,000,000, nothing like that. Second, we will be assuming all of Superman's attacks are imbued with cursed energy, because that makes this a lot less boring. Because otherwise, it's just, oh, he actually can't kill this curse because he doesn't have any cursed energy. And I think that would suck. Okay, with all that out of the way, we can begin with the first fight in episode 1. This would be when Megami and Yuji are fighting the cursed spirits to retrieve the Sukuna finger. Let's assume Superman is randomly teleported into the Jujutsu Kaisen universe at the moment the weird bubble guy is about to eat Yuji's friends. Superman would defeat this thing pretty easily, considering Yuji is able to hit it hard enough to make it spit out the people it was eating, and despite, having increased strength, and he's much stronger than the average human, Itadori is still a human, and Superman is so far above that. So I really do believe he would disintegrate it with one punch. After I wrote that, I was thinking of how to get to the point where Yuji eats the Sukuna finger, considering Superman is here, so there's not really a reason for him to. But then I realized, I'm not a storyteller, so screw it. Let's pretend he gets in the same position again anyways, just however, whatever, and he has to eat the finger. Now we are at the Sukuna vs. Gojo fight, and also Superman is here. Now, normally, Superman probably wouldn't intervene. He wouldn't want to hurt Itadori, and would trust in both him and Gojo. He'd probably just be there for support, waiting to see how the fight would end, and, if Gojo is finished, I'll come in and I'll stop him. But, unfortunately, right before he was sent to the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, Lex Luthor hotboxed Superman with a special smoke he made himself. Smoke made of red kryptonite. Now, if you're not a Superman fan, you wouldn't know this, but red kryptonite actually makes Kryptonians get very angry. So, Superman is high as hell on red K, and so he's basically bloodlusted. Also, this is one finger Sukuna, so I think Superman would just rip his head off in like a second flat. He speed blitzes, he strength blitzes, he wins. He grabs his hair and he rips off his head. Since this is bloodlusted Superman, he would go after Gojo too. But how does he get past infinity? From the premature death chapter of JJK, we know Gojo's infinity automatically targets things it detects as threats. It is explained that this is done by Gojo categorizing certain things as threats, and then his technique automatically defends against those things. This means if Gojo were attacked with something he's never seen before, if it was fast enough to hit him before he could categorize it as a threat, he wouldn't be able to stop it. Now, Superman has laser eyes. However, it would be fair to assume Gojo has already categorized lasers as threats, especially with Mechamaru around. Let's talk about how Superman's laser eyes work for a second. They discharge the solar energy charged up in his eye cells, because every cell in his body charges up solar energy, so by shooting that out of his eyes, he gets laser eyes. However, in the New 52 Superman run, which is part of the mainline Superman title, Superman unlocked a power that let him discharge all of the solar energy in all of his entire body's cells at once, creating a sort of solar flare. Now, do you think Gojo has ever gone up against a solar flare? Boom! Superman discharges all the solar energy, causing Gojo, Megami, and Yuji Kuno's dead body to all be instantly disintegrated. Now, since we can assume Kenjaku was keeping tabs on Itadori and Gojo, The 3 disaster curses and Mahito would all be instantly dispatched to either recruit or kill Superman, because this guy just killed Gojo. We gotta get him on our side, or we gotta kill him before he becomes a problem. It would take them at least a full day to find him, by which point he would have flown to the sun and back to recharge, so he would now be at full health. They would likely try to talk to him first, because they need anyone they can get on their side, and this guy is so powerful, it would only be worth it to have him on our side. But Superman is currently high on Red K, like we said before, so he would just attack them immediately. He'd burn Hanami to a crisp with his laser eyes because plant loses to fire, freeze Jogo because fire loses to ice, rip Dagon apart before he could evolve because Dagon is kinda weak. Pre-evolution. Mahito, however, is a problem. Superman can't hit his soul. The only thing that's been able to damage Mahito are soul hits. Todo, Nanami, they couldn't hurt Mahito because they couldn't hit his soul. Superman doesn't really have a way to hit his soul. However, Superman would realize this pretty early on, because we know he has a high battle IQ, considering he consistently wins against a super android AI planet eater and a really smart bald guy, and also the god of a different planet. So Superman has a very high battle IQ, so he would immediately figure out how to defeat Mahito. He would scrunch him up in a tiny little ball and then swallow him whole. Because of Superman's amazingly strong stomach acid, Mahito would be in constant pain and unable to focus hard enough to change shape. He would technically be alive, but it would be impossible for him to ever escape or do anything, so he'd now be out of the picture. At this point, Jujutsu High would realize Superman killed Gojo and would pull no punches. They would send all their students and faculty to handle him. The Kyoto students would show up first, but Superman would defeat them all pretty easily. Let's be honest, Kyoto is weak. He speed glitches and crushes all of their skulls before Todo can even think about clapping. Mekumaru would be difficult given his distance from the mech and you don't really know where he is, how do you find him, but since Superman has been in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe for over 24 hours now, he would suddenly, out of nowhere, gain the ability to sense cursed energy and would follow Mekumaru's cursed energy trail to his hideout, crushing him instantly. Next, the Tokyo students, minus Yuji and Megami because they're dead, and Nobura because she hasn't been recruited yet, would attack. Yuta would still be in Africa, and Hikari would be at his casino, so they also wouldn't show up. Superman would rip through Panda at immense speeds, destroying all 3 cores at once. I'm talking Mach 20 or something. A simple flick to Maki's forehead would be enough to get rid of her, especially at this stage, because she's still second year, and she hasn't awakened yet. And then Inumaki would yell, "Don't move," but because Superman is so much stronger than him, Inumaki's throat would explode and he would die, effectively killing himself. Next comes the Jujutsu High faculty. Principal Yaga's cursed dolls would all get destroyed the same way Panda did. Nanami tries his cursed technique, but the blade shatters upon impact. But how does Superman kill Nanami? If you've never read a Superman comic, you wouldn't know this, but Superman is actually secretly the news reporter Clark Kent, so all he'd have to do is whip up a fake news article that says minimum wage has been reduced by half and Nanami would have a heart attack. He'd rip through the rest of the faculty similarly to how he did Panda, including that stupid bald guy and the blonde dickhead who I forgot about just now. They are not part of the Jujutsu High faculty, but I forgot to include them with the disaster curses. I mean, let's be honest, he's getting through the faculty very easily. What is Utahime doing against Superman? Let's be honest. What? Mei sacrifices Wee, I guess, and then she dies anyways, right after. Wait, Rhinohorn, he loses to Gaku Kanji because his cursed technique is sound. No, you fool. Viltrumites are the ones that are weak to sound, not Kryptonians. And either way, Superman rips his heart out and eats it before Gaku Bunji can even reach his stupid guitar. At this point, Kenjaku realizes he needs to go all out to stop this guy from destroying everything. So he wakens all the stuff he had prepped for the Culling games, the cursed items, the cursed users, all that stuff. Instead of telling everyone about the games, he tells them all if they defeat Superman, they win the Culling games. Or something, I don't know, man, I don't know. The first to show up is Kashimo. He immediately activates Mythical Beast Amber, but Superman just kind of stands around and tanks it until Kashimo gets tired, the technique deactivates, and he dies. Next are the Sendai Colony folks. Superman beats Rio in a beam clash, because his laser eyes are just that good, punches hard enough to shatter Uro's sky clothes, kills Druve embarrassingly easily, and because he swallowed Mahito, he is now able to use reverse curse technique, which is how he kills Kuro Roshi. He dispatches most of the Tokyo colony folks pretty easily. Reggie is the strongest there, and Superman honestly just rips his head off before he can pull a single receipt out. Then we get to the weakened players. Then we get to the awakened players, specifically Higuruma, Takaba, and Angel, because those are honestly the only three that actually matter. Angel would try Jacob's ladder, but it wouldn't do anything because Superman doesn't have a technique. He gets his powers from the sun. Also, Jacob's ladder seems to be made of light, so it would supercharge him, and from now on you can assume Superman is at 200% power. He speed blitzes and rips Angel's spine out. Next would be Higuruma, who immediately pops domain expansion. Since there's no violence allowed in Higuruma's domain, Superman wouldn't be able to do anything but go through the trial. Unfortunately, since he's hopped up on Red K and was drugged against his own will by Lex Luthor, he would be found not guilty, and the second the domain ended, he would laser straight through Higuruma's skull. Takaba would be the most dangerous out of these three, because Superman can't directly cause him harm, but Superman is very charismatic. So he would make a joke like, imagine if Takaba died, and Takaba would laugh and die. At this point, both Hikari and Yuta would have been alerted of Superman's presence. Hikari would show up first and bring Kirara. Now, let's do a quick little history lesson. Fridging is a term that was invented specifically because of something that happened in a Green Lantern comic. And Superman is pals with Green Lantern. So obviously, he unlocks this power and immediately fridges Kirara. Hikari becomes bloodlusted, pops domain, immediately gets a jackpot, and then Superman would fly him to the sun and leave him there. He would constantly burn to ashes and then heal over and over, but since he has no way of getting away from the sun, after 4 minutes and 11 seconds, his jackpot is up and he dies. Yuta would arrive from Africa along with Miguel and LaRue. I'll be honest, I don't have any clue what Miguel or LaRue could do against Superman, especially a 200% power bloodlusted one. So I think they just kind of die from his aura, like they get close and get like flattened like pancakes. Kind of like in Bleach. I think they do that in Bleach. Yuta tries to do a pure love beam, but Superman dodges, of course, grabs Yuta, flies around the earth so fast they go into the past, and saves Rika, so Yuta never unlocks his cursed technique. Next, Kenjaku would send Urome, who tries to freeze Superman. Superman would melt the ice with his laser eyes and then shatter Urome's skull with a flick. Kenjaku would realize Superman's immense power. Kenjaku had realized Superman's immense power a long time ago, and has spent the entire time everybody else is fighting, collecting the 19 remaining Sukuna fingers plus his head. He would eat them all, leaving Superman to fight his strongest opponent yet, Kenjakuna, fully reincarnated, high-in-era Sukuna, except he also has gravity from Yuji's mom and Geto's cursed spirit manipulation. He also technically has Kenjaku's cursed technique, but that's not going to be useful here. Sukuna would immediately domain expansion, but Malevolent Shrine is just cuts and slashes. It would do no damage to Superman's invincible body. However, after spending so much time in this universe and seeing 3 separate domain expansions, Higuruma, Hikari, and now Sukuna, Superman would have a revelation, just like Dabura did against Maharaga. And he would figure out how to use domain expansion. He would win the domain clash because he's Superman. Superman's domain is just the surface of the sun, and Sukuna instantly gets turned to ash and dies. But Superman isn't done yet. A spaceship is approaching. Somehow, Superman arriving here has caused the Modulo aliens to arrive early, and Superman flies through their ship's engines and it explodes, killing everyone on board. Since he's bloodlusted and realizes no one else is left to fight him, he flies through the Earth's core, destroying it. Superman kills the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. Now, if you have any disagreements on how this went, comment down below. I'm willing to debate. But I think I put a lot of research into this. I put a lot of effort into it. And I think I was pretty accurate in how this would go. And you know what? Honestly, DC Comics, Akutami Sensei, if you want to get into contact with me, honestly, DC Comics, Gege, if you want to, get into contact with me, We can get this ball rolling. We can get Superman kills the DC universe. Sorry, Superman kills the JJK universe. We can get this ball rolling. We can get this published. All right, I'm down to work with any artist. So yeah, just text me. You got my phone number. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.